If you are feeling a little bit lonely or maybe a lot of loneliness, then this podcast is for you. I know that when I was struggling with loneliness, something that I really needed was to hear someone else's experience. Sometimes hearing that someone else is going through the same thing that we are going through is enough medicine for us to feel a little bit of relief. And so, in this podcast, I want to share with you my recent experience with traveling into a really deep pit of loneliness, what triggered that, and also what tools I use to get myself out of it and to get the most out of the experience, meaning how I managed to learn more about myself and use it and transmute it into art. So, if that sounds like something that you would love to listen to right now, then welcome to my podcast, The Inner Workshop, which is a new podcast. And I'm so excited to be sharing this with you guys. I've had a YouTube channel for quite a long time and it felt like the next natural step. And just quickly before we do jump into this episode, I do want to say that if you are feeling really low and are really struggling with your mental health or with your emotions, then please don't think that the tools I'm offering are a complete substitute to getting professional help. If your inner guidance is telling you to go and get professional help or speak to a therapist, then I encourage you to do so. The things that I share are literally tools that I use for myself to help myself through times like this, maybe when there isn't anyone around and I really am dealing with things on my own. But speaking to someone else can also be very, very helpful and medicinal. And finally, if you get any value from this podcast episode, please do leave a comment, like, and subscribe to the channel, as this really does help the channel and I really appreciate your support. So thank you so much, guys. If you want to see the video to this, then head over to my YouTube channel. And yeah, without further ado, let's jump straight into the podcast episode. If you follow me on YouTube already, you already know that I love to talk about spirituality, inner work, feelings, emotions, and literally just life and questioning the deeper meaning of life. And so I wanted to start a podcast that was an opportunity to speak about things for a longer time. I feel like so many people will relate to this that watch my YouTube channel, but like sometimes I can just talk so much. I know that this is a shadow. There's like the shadow part of it can be that you talk so much about yourself, or you could overspeak. Maybe you just like the sound of your own voice. This is something that I definitely have, but you can actually express this in a healthy way. And so that is what I have realized that I do with my YouTube channel, is I do try to use that part of me, the one that likes to talk a lot, and express it in this way. And so that's why I feel like it's been on my radar for a long time to start a podcast. I had the little download around a few months ago and I was so resistant to it. I didn't want to do it. And I knew that like my intuition was guiding me to do this. The idea literally popped into my head whilst I was doing breath work, and it was like, you must do a podcast, like you need to start a podcast. And I didn't want to, because I was like, oh, I don't know how. It just felt like something I didn't want to do because there was many blocks around it. I was like, I just want to continue what I'm doing now with YouTube. But I think what I have realized now is that this is just a natural part of my journey, and it is also something that there's another part of me that really wants to. So here we are. Today's episode is all about loneliness, and I'm going to be talking about what is loneliness from my perspective, my journey with loneliness, and how I use loneliness to understand myself and others better, and how I get through it using different tools. And it's funny because this podcast is called Tools for the Soul. I am thinking about either calling it Tools for the Soul or The Inner Workshop, just because I'm currently in my dad's shed and he uses it for a workshop, and there's so many tools everywhere. If you're watching on video, you'll see this screwdriver that I've been using a lot. And so my friend told me those names, which were, I think, really good names. And so I don't know if to call it Tools for the Soul or The Inner Workshop. And I guess by the time I posted this, I will have figured that out. I'm a very emotional person. I have a lot of emotional ups and downs, and I really do try my best to fully feel the hellish feelings that can sometimes come through. Just this weekend past, I went into this deep pit of loneliness. It was excruciating, painful, and it swallowed me up whole. I was really feeling it. That's what inspired this episode to talk about loneliness, because where I was really diving deep into that feeling of loneliness, don't get me wrong, there was a couple of times where I did try to get rid of it, or I was just like, I don't want to feel this anymore, it's too painful. I ended up actually going quite deep into it and figuring out some things about myself that I wouldn't have if I didn't do that. And so that's why I think this is a perfect topic. And I also love that I get something out of that hell. It's like you can turn it into creative projects, make art out of it, whether that is like talking about it, telling someone about it, or literally creating podcasts and videos out of it. It's like, okay, cool, I actually am able to use this, so it was worth going through, even though the information that I got from going through it was worth it in itself, even if I didn't make the podcast. But I do have the urge to share and to talk about it. And so I'll start with what happened. Okay, guys, before we dive really deep into this topic, which I am excited about, I just want to let you know that I am offering ceremonies at the moment. One of the reasons that I started hosting ceremonies is to give people an opportunity to find like-minded souls, share, connect, and meet new people. And also people that are on the same wavelength, interested in similar things, interested in personal growth and doing inner work. So during the ceremonies, we do meditations. I usually have a topic that we will talk about, and it's really fun. It's really magical. And so if you are feeling lonely, even if you're not feeling lonely, but I'm guessing you are if you clicked on this episode, it's such a good opportunity to one of these ceremonies. It is one of my biggest passions at the moment, and I would absolutely love to have you there. So if you would like more details on that, then please do comment saying ceremony and I will send you all the details. But without further ado, let's go straight into this episode. I cannot wait to share with you my perspective on loneliness. Thank you. And I also just wanted to say, if you have any stories about your own loneliness, about your own experience with these feelings, please do put it in the comments below. Not only am I curious to know, but also it is so helpful. And I think it's like medicine when you read other people's experiences and learn that other people are also going through the same thing. So just your comment could not only really help the channel and help my podcast, but it's also going to potentially help someone else on their journey. So yeah, I invite you to send that comment and like, subscribe for future episodes. Thank you so much. There was something that triggered me last week into this really dark place. So just before that, I had a really massive high and I was meeting people and I was having so much fun. I felt like everything was just working out great, and then all of a sudden something happened, and I don't necessarily want to share that yet. Maybe I will in future episodes, but I don't think it's so important. So that event triggered me to start feeling really low and almost like desperate for human connection, validation, everything that was potentially a trigger after that was getting to me a lot. I'll try and explain what I mean by that. It's like, because I had been triggered by the event that had happened. Okay, I'll tell you what happened. Because I can actually say it in a way that it's not so obvious. Long story short, someone that I know not very well stood me up. And this triggered so many beliefs about myself that I did not know were there necessarily. Thought I'd healed them. It's like old trauma that comes up, resurfaces, stuff that I thought I'd healed. This was happening over the course of like a few days. Like this person, I don't know what the truth is from their perspective, how they feel about me, or why they genuinely stood me up. Maybe they were just busy. Maybe they've got so much going on in their own life. They're probably not even thinking about it that deep. But I took it really badly. Like it just triggered me so much. I started to really question everything about myself. and like have all these negative beliefs about myself come up. And it really reminds me of when I was a child and having low self-esteem and thinking that I'm really weird. This is something that would come up a lot. And by the way, it's not like these thoughts just surface and they're easy to notice like that. I am like deeply questioning myself, like, why am I feeling so low? Why am I feeling so lonely? It felt like this really empty feeling. I remember feeling like this is such an empty feeling. And I just felt like I was so desperate to have some friends around me in that moment. And it was one of them times where I think the universe does this on purpose. It's like when the universe wants you to learn something new about yourself, like no one's going to answer the phone to you. No one's going to be free to see you because you're meant to be sitting in this and really figuring out why you're feeling like this. And what I've noticed is that when I'm feeling like this, it's not a reflection of how other people feel about me. I don't think that is so much relevant. It's more how I'm feeling about myself, because someone could cancel me and stand me up and I will not care. It won't affect me. But if there is someone that stands me up or cancels on me that I am putting on a pedestal, for example, and I think that having them as a friend is important, and then that's like slips out of my hands, and that's when I am really questioning myself. It was kind of excruciating to sit with this feeling. It was actually so painful. And I remember thinking, like, I get why people avoid their feelings, because going through this, going into it deeply, don't get me wrong, it always makes it better when I do that. But this one was like a tsunami wave of emotion that I don't usually experience to that extent. Like, I can dip in and out of low moods and I have to really like do all my things in the morning to make sure that I'm not dipping down. But this was like a tsunami wave of emotion that I don't usually experience. It was also a full moon last week, so I think that maybe that had something to do with it. It made me realize how much the loneliness was, as I said before, it was actually more of a reflection of how I felt about myself and how much I was rejecting certain parts of myself. Because the funny thing is as well is like, whilst I was in this state, I remember my mind like looking for all the possible reasons why I am undesirable. And after reflection on this, I'm like, this person hasn't said this. So what's happening is I am scanning my being, choosing and picking out parts of myself that I think are undesirable. And then I'm projecting that to be why this person has cancelled on me. So I remember thinking all of these thoughts like, okay, so I must be really weird. I must just be like so unwanted by everyone. And then I started to, it was just literally like thought after thought, like me trying to find evidence for why I was weird, why I was just like this undesirable person. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't really listen. Like, I didn't know that I still had these beliefs about myself. I thought I was a lot more healed than that. I thought that I had worked through it and that I really did love myself. But when I went through this, I realized there are still parts of myself that I clearly am in rejection of. And one of those things, funnily enough, was me talking too much. And it really started to make me question, like, maybe I shouldn't even make YouTube videos, because what if people just think I talk too much? And one of the tools that I did to really help myself to get myself back to my normal state of being, where I'm more just in a loving state, connected with my heart more, is to read the comments on my YouTube videos. And it really does help to know that there are other people out there that understand the kind of things that I like to talk about and that like to listen, and that my shadow or gift or whatever it is of speaking a lot is actually needed in the world. And I don't need to reject it. I don't need to tell myself this makes you undesirable, or this makes you bad or wrong, and you being like this is going to make people not want to be with you. And because that's just not true. Maybe one person won't like it, but I'm trying to get to that place where it's like, if you don't like it, that's fine, because I like it. I like me, you know? And I think sometimes it can be difficult to do that. So the next point I have written down was my journey with loneliness. And as I said before, I thought I had healed this part of myself, that I was like really looking at myself as just this weirdo. And I guess I still have that little shadow inside of me, which I'm definitely working through. And I feel like the last weekend that went past allowed me to really become conscious of that part. And I'm really grateful for that now. On the other side of it, it's quite freeing, because I can go back to enjoying myself rather than needing other people's validation for me to be happy. And I think I kind of was going through a little bit of a stage like that. And I think at every part of your evolution, old traumas come back. And when I was a kid, this is a massive theme in my life. I was in the cool group at school, the popular group. I was best friends with like the most popular girl in school. I've done a lot of reflection on this. This girl, who was my best friend, had decided that she wanted to exclude me from the group, and it was extremely painful. Completely lost my confidence, and the whole group pretty much ostracized me. So it was actually, I can't even explain how painful that was as a child, like a 13-year-old kid, to go through that, to have your whole group exclude you. And one of the reasons why it was so painful was because I now realized that I had put a lot of my value in who I was hanging around with. I thought that if I didn't have friends that were cool, then I wasn't cool just by myself. This is actually a realization that I made recently, because I notice it can still come up. And I think that's what pedestaling is when you put someone up above you. And this has definitely been a theme in my life. And it's something that I have to just sit with and not avoid, because otherwise when I try to like avoid it, I think that it perpetuates and I can't get to the root of it. So when I really do sit with it, I'm getting to that root. Like what I said earlier is like, I noticed, okay, why am I feeling like this? Reminds me of when I was a kid. I felt like I was really weird when I was a kid, especially when all this was happening, because obviously, you know, being ostracized by the coolest group at school, maybe someone else doesn't have this shadow, that doesn't have this trauma, wouldn't have reacted like I did as a kid. But to me, I took it all like, no one likes me, I'm such a weirdo, allowed that to completely swallow me whole for years. And it's taken me years and years to actually work through that. And I think what I've noticed this time around is like, if something like that happens, I tend to be able to bounce back. I don't know if that's the right word, move through it quicker, because of my years of working with spiritual practices, sitting with feelings, listening to myself. I am able to move through it a little bit quicker. Once I've noticed what the root is and where it comes from, I can then kind of figure out what I need in order to kind of reverse that feeling, to put myself in the opposite state. Just loving myself, really just giving myself the attention that I need and the compassion that I need. Literally what happens is like this negative or really painful feeling will come up and the thoughts are going round and round, and I can really notice the difference when I just try to tune in and listen to myself and tell myself it's completely normal how you're feeling, and I'm completely here with you now, which is another spiritual tool that I've learned from Till Swan. If you watch my YouTube channel, you'll know that I love Till Swan, along with a few other spiritual teachers, but she's definitely up there with one of my favourites. And I really am grateful for that tool that she put out there, is telling yourself that I'm completely here with you now, because it shifts your focus from all of the negative thoughts that you're feeling about yourself to compassion, I guess, and love for yourself. I just want people to know that they're like difficult times when traumas surface and come up. Like, it's completely normal. It's not anything to be ashamed of. It doesn't mean you're mentally ill. It's literally a completely normal human experience, and we all go through it. We all have days where we feel lonely. And this is another thing that I was grateful for when this was happening, because I think it reminds me that other people are feeling like this. This is like one of my intentions to share. One thing that just popped into my head as well when it comes to my journey with loneliness, because obviously I had started speaking about what happened to me when I was at school. I remember at one point, like I remember being at home after school and being like really down and feeling quite depressed, and I really didn't want to feel it. I didn't have any like knowledge of any of these tools. I didn't understand that like feelings was a way to heal it or to move through it, because obviously I was so young, and it really did like fuck with my self-esteem and my self-confidence, and I feel like my whole confidence was just shattered after this happened at school. And that kind of made things worse, because then I was probably looking outside of myself even more for love and attention. And I remember writing in my journal at the time, like, I just want a boyfriend, and if I have a boyfriend then everything will be better. And I remember being so desperate for love and thinking that I would feel complete when I had a partner. And so I spent a lot of my time growing up getting in relationships that weren't necessarily in alignment, but were covering up the emptiness that I felt. This deep loneliness that I felt, which was actually a reflection of how I felt about myself, and still is something that I'm working through, clearly, because last weekend it came up massively. When I would get into relationships with someone that was out of alignment, I would find it so difficult to end that relationship. So they would end up going on for a lot longer than what was probably necessary, because I was clinging on to this connection that I had with this person, and also extremely fearful of that loneliness feeling, which always seems to come up when I'm single, and it doesn't really come up when I'm in a relationship. It's like that person, whoever they are, they're like a massive antidote to the loneliness, that emptiness. And so it's kind of quite addictive to be in a relationship with someone, whether they are incompatible or not. And it is like a drug, because it is like a painkiller, you know, to have someone that is able to completely take away this pain for you. And it's probably one of the most painful things that I deal with. So of course, this has been a massive part of my journey and healing, and really getting to know myself, loving myself, understanding what parts of myself I'm rejecting, and how I'm using relationships to avoid facing those parts of myself. And so as I get older, it's becoming clearer and clearer to me how the simple practices, meditating and going deep within, asking myself questions, intuitively asking myself questions, like when I'm feeling the feeling, locating it in my body, and then speaking to it like it's another entity, and then just really relaxing and trusting what comes up in that moment is the message that I need to hear. Sometimes I notice that my mind is trying to understand the answer too much, where I miss it. Let me know in the comments if that is something that you experience as well. And I'm really curious, actually, because I always love to know if other people are actually dealing with, like, the things that I'm noticing, are other people actually noticing this as well? And also how it feels for you in your life and your experience. So really asking myself the questions and really intuitively having like almost like an interview session with myself. And then the first answers that come through are like literally the answers I trust, like this is what my being is feeling right now, and it's not necessarily true. But once I'm able to become aware of it, and like, for example, if a thought comes up where I'm asking myself, why am I feeling like this? And it is revealed to me that subconsciously I am telling myself that I'm really weird and believing these things about myself. Once I'm able to hear them and they're revealed, that alone is enough to diffuse it, because now I know what it is. And so I don't have to decide to believe that. I can actually decide to choose a new belief and also do some work on choosing those new beliefs. And I think I have to make a podcast about choosing new beliefs, because definitely something I've been working with, like spiritual tools to choose new beliefs, which has been really transformative in my life. But one of the things that is so important before you choose new beliefs is to understand what are the beliefs in your subconscious that are counteracting the beliefs that you want to believe. And they can be so deep in there that it's like mining for gold, because you're now uncovering a deep-rooted belief that has been triggered. And from noticing the trigger, noticing that you've gone into like maybe a bit of a spiral and you're feeling really, really low, noticing that trigger is like a gold mine. And I think being able to do that work whilst you're in that state is a practice. It can be a little bit wobbly, because it's like we're trying to stay conscious whilst our whole being has literally been triggered into unconsciousness. When you're spiraling, it's like I'm being pulled. By the way, this is all in my perspective. So if you have a completely different perspective on this, please let me know in the comments. I'm just sharing my experience and what I've noticed. But it's like you're being pulled into unconsciousness. So it's also very painful. So to be able to notice that and say, okay, here's an opportunity for me to listen and to drop in deeper, can be difficult. And like I said, it can be a practice. But with that being said, the more you practice, the easier it gets. I think one tip I would give is, like, if you are doing that, really not trying to rush the process, because those feelings are going to take their own natural course, whatever the length of time it is that they are going to take. And so the best thing you can do is just get really quiet and notice and just allow these feelings to come through. I did speak to one of my friends and literally cried to her, someone that I really trust and that I really love. And that helped. Being able to tell someone I feel lonely, that you trust and that you know that they're not going to judge you, you know, is an absolute blessing. So I'm so grateful that I have people in my life that I can do that with. Those people are literally angels. So therapists as well, angels, if they are able to like really like listen and validate how you're feeling. To just kind of close off this podcast, this episode, I do want to say, if you are feeling this feeling of loneliness and emptiness, I really want to just remind you that you are not alone, because I think one of the things that I needed to hear the most when I was feeling like this was that I was not alone. And it was really such a remedy to how I was feeling, to know that other people also feeling like this, because not that I want others to feel like this, but because I felt so alone and isolated and like I was the only weirdo in the world, to know that other people might also be feeling about this like this to themselves. And I don't think they're a weirdo. I think they're still a beautiful soul. And so to know that you are not alone in how you feel. There are probably billions of other people, really sadly, feeling alone, especially at this time. And we are going through massive upheaval in terms of our trauma and the human collective having to process so much trauma that has literally been a result of our ancestors and past lives and all of that stuff that I'm not going to get into. But if you are out there feeling this, just know that this is part of the process. It's completely normal. You are doing amazing just by sitting with it. You're just doing so well, and I can't emphasize enough that you are not alone in feeling the way how you feel. You're not the only person that feels lonely. It's okay to feel that way. I am so excited to share this podcast episode, the first one of the inner workshop, Tools for the Soul. I don't know which one to call it. This is really hard, but I'll figure it out. If you enjoyed this episode, guys, please do leave a comment. Please do like, subscribe to the podcast, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to see the video. But yes, have a beautiful day, and I hope you enjoyed. And if you have anything that you want to share that is related to this topic, please do share your stories, because I honestly think it is medicine when people share their own experience with this stuff. Like, I think I realized when I was feeling that sad, just a quick last note, is that when I never usually listen to sad music, but I was feeling really sad and like no music was like doing it for me. So I just put on some sad music, and she was speaking about how she felt sad, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not the only one. Like, this is making me feel like a little bit less alone in this world. So thank you so much. I also know that I have all of you guys that are subscribed to my channel, and I'm so grateful speaking to you. I really do enjoy. I'm just so grateful that there are so many other humans out there that are actually on my wavelength, understand all of the deep things that I like to go into. And I just know that there are, like, the more I put myself out there and speak about these things, the more I realize how there are so many other humans like this. And it's just reaching them and finding them. And one of those ways is to share my voice. And I also do have offerings that you might want to check out, like ceremonies, especially if you are feeling lonely. Like, this is the perfect time to mention this. I do run ceremonies, and they are on Zoom, so they're online. And so you're able to join, connect, share with other people. We go through meditations. I always speak on a little topic, and then we have conversations about the topic. I give you journaling prompts so that you can answer questions, maybe do a little bit of digging deep to answer like questions that I feel like are really important for the current energy of the time, the theme that is going on. And I absolutely love these ceremonies. This is one of my passions. I love to do it. It's so much fun. The group is always just so magical, and there is lots of space to share and connect with other people. People have made friends by coming to my ceremonies and end up meeting up and becoming real life friends. So it is my absolute pleasure to offer that. And if that is something that you are interested in, then just comment below saying ceremony, and I will send you all the details. Thank you so much. Peace, namaste. Have a beautiful day.